Vermax carried Jacerys Velaryon to Winterfell to treat with its formidable young lord, Cragan Stark. The Lord of Winterfell was 21 when Prince Jacerys came to him in 129 AC. Cragan had come to his lordship at the age of 13. During his minority, his uncle Bernard had ruled the north as regent, but in 124 AC, Cragan turned 16, only to find his uncle slow to surrender his power. Finally, in 126, Cragan Stark rose up, imprisoned Bernard and his 3 sons, and took the rule of the north into his own hands. Soon after, he wed Lady Aranori, a beloved companion since childhood, only to have her die in 128 AC, whilst giving birth to a son and heir, whom Cragan named Rickon after his father. Autumn was well advanced when the Prince of Dragonstone came to Winterfell. The snow lay deep upon the ground, and a cold wind was howling from the north, and Lord Stark was in the midst of his preparations for the coming winter, yet he gave Jacerys a warm welcome. Snow and cold made Vermax ill-tempered, so the prince did not linger long amongst the Northmen, but many a curious tale came of this short trip. It says Cragan and Jacerys took a liking to each other, for the boy prince reminded Lord of Winterfell of his own younger brother who had died. They drank together, hunted together, trained together, and swore an oath of brotherhood sealed in blood. This seems more credible than Septon Eustace's version of events, wherein the prince spent most of his visit attempting to persuade Lord Cragan to give up his false gods and accept the faith of the Seven. But Mushroom's account introduces a young maiden with the name of Sarah Snow. So smitten was Prince Jacerys with this creature, bastard daughter of the late Lord Rickon Stark, that he was often found in her bed come the cold northern night. On learning that his guest had claimed the maidenhead of his bastard sister, Lord Cragan became wroth, only softened when Sarah Snow told him that the prince had taken her for his wife. They had spoken their vows in Winterfell's own godswood before a heart tree. This makes for a charming story, to be sure, but as with many of Mushroom's fables, it seems to partake more of the fool's fevered imagination than any real historical truth. Jacerys Velaryon had been betrothed to his cousin Baela since he was 4 and she was 2, and from all we know of his character, it seems very unlikely that he would break such a solemn agreement to protect an uncertain virtue of some half-wild northern bastard, if indeed there ever lived a Sarah Snow. This is what we do know. Cragan Stark and Jacerys Velaryon reached an accord, and signed and sealed an agreement that came to be called the Pact of Ice and Fire. Like many such pacts, it was to be sealed with a marriage. Lord Cragan's son, Rickon, was a year old. Prince Jacerys was yet unmarried and childless, but it was assumed that he would sire children of his own once his mother sat the Iron Throne. Under the terms of the pact, the prince's firstborn daughter would be sent north at the age of 7, to be fostered at Winterfell until such a time she was old enough to marry Lord Cragan's heir. When the Prince of Dragonstone took his dragon back into the cold autumn sky, he did so with knowledge that he had won 3 powerful lords and all their bannermen for his mother. Though his 15th name day was still half a year away, Prince Jacerys approved himself a man and worthy heir to the Iron Throne. His younger brother's trip to Storm's End would not go as well. The tragedy that befell Jacerys Velaryon at Storm's End was never planned. The first battles in the Dance of the Dragons were fought with quills and ravens, with threats and promises. The murder of Lord Beesbury at the Green Council was not yet widely known. Most believed his lordship languishing in some dungeon, while many familiar faces were no longer seen around court. No heads appeared above the castle gates, and many still hoped that the question of succession may be resolved peacefully. But the stranger had other plans. For surely it was his dread hand behind the ill chance that brought the 2 princelings together at Storm's End, when the dragon Arax raced before the gathering storm to deliver Jacerys Velaryon to the safety of the castle yard, only to find Aemond Targaryen there before him. Boros Baratheon was a man of much different character than his father. Lord Aemoned was stone, hard and strong, and unmoving, Septon Eustace tells us. Lord Boros was the wind that raged and howled and blowed this way and that. Prince Aemoned had been uncertain what sort of welcome he had received when he set out, for Storm's End welcomed him with feasts, hunts, and jousting. Lord Boros proved more than willing to entertain. "I have 4 daughters," he told the prince. "Choose anyone you like. Cass is the eldest, she'll be first to flower, but Floris is prettier. If it's a clever wife you want, there is Maris." Rhaenyra had taken House Baratheon for granted for too long, his lordship told Aemond. "Princess Rhaenys is kin to me and mine. Some great aunt I've never knew was married to her father, but both of them are dead. And Rhaenyra, she's not Rhaenys, is she? He's nothing against women," Lord Boros went on to say. He loved his girls. A daughter is a precious thing, but a son, should the gods ever grant him a son, of his own blood, Storm's End would pass to him, not his sisters. Why should the Iron Throne be any different? And with that, a royal marriage is in the offering. Rhaenyra's cause was lost. She would see that, when she learned that she had lost Storm's End, he would tell her so himself. Bow down to your brother. It is for the best. His girls would fight with each other sometimes. The way girls do. They always made peace afterwards. With no record of which daughter Prince Aemond finally decided on, save that it was not Maris. Munkin writes that the Prince and Lord Boris were haggling over dates and dowries on the morning of Lucerys Velaryon's appearance. Rhaegar sensed his coming first. Guards walking the battlements of the castle's mighty curtained walls clutched their spears in sudden terror when she woke with a roar that shook the very foundations of Durin's defiance. Arrax quailed before the sound, we are told. Lightning was flashing to the east, and heavy rain was falling as Lucerys stepped off his dragon, his mother's message clutched in his hand. He must surely have known what Vhagar's presence meant, so it would have come as no surprise when Aemond Targaryen confronted him in the Round Hall before the eyes of Lord Boris, his 4 daughters, Septon and Maester, and 2 knights, guards and servants. "Look at this sad creature, my lord," Prince Aemond called out. "Little Luke Strong, the bastard." Directing himself at Luke, he said, "You are wet, bastard. It is raining. Or did you just piss yourself in fear?" Lucerys Velaryon addressed himself only to Lord Baratheon. "Lord Boris, I have brought you a message from my mother, the Queen. The Whore of Dragonstone," he means. Prince Aemond strode forward and made to snatch the letter from Lucerys' hands. But Lord Boris roared, and his knights intervened, pulling the princelings apart. One brought Rhaenyra's letter to the dais, where his lordship sat upon the throne of the old Storm Kings. No man can truly know what Boris Baratheon was feeling at that moment. The accounts of those who were there differ markedly. Some say his lordship was red-faced and abashed, as a man might be if his lawful wife found him in bed with another woman. Others declared that Boris appeared to relish the moment. It pleased his vanity to have both king and queen seeking his support. Yet all the witnesses agree on what Lord Boris said and did. Never a man of letters, he handed the Queen's letter to his maester, who cracked the seal and whispered the message into his lordship's ear. A frown strode across Boris's face. He stroked his beard and scowled at Lucerys Velaryon and said, "If I do as your mother bids, which one of my daughters will you marry?" He gestured at the 4 girls. "Pick one." Prince Lucerys could only blush. "My lord, I am not free to marry," he replied. "I am betrothed to my cousin Rhaena." "I thought as much," Lord Boris said. "Go home, pup, and tell your mother that the Lord of Storm's End is not a dog that she can whistle up when she needs to set against their foes." Lucerys turned to take his leave, but Prince Aemond drew his sword and said, "Hold, Strong. First pay the debt you owe me." Then he tore off his eye patch and flung it to the floor to show the sapphire beneath. "You have a knife, just as you did then. Put one of your eyes out and I will let you leave. One will serve. I would not blind you." Prince Lucerys recalled his promise to his mother. "I will not fight you. I came here as an envoy, not a knight. You came here as a craven and a traitor." Prince Aemond answered, "I will have your eye or your life, Strong." At that, Boris grew uneasy. "Not here," he grumbled. "He came as an envoy. I want no blood shed beneath my roof." So his guards put themselves between the 2 princelings and escorted Lucerys Velaryon from the hall, back to the castle yard where his dragon Arrax was hunched down in the rain, awaiting his return. And there it might have ended, but for the girl Maris, the second-born daughter of Lord Boris, less comely than her sisters. She was angry with Aemond for preferring them to her. "Was it one of your eyes he took, or one of your balls?" Maris asked the prince, in a tone sweet as honey. "I'm so glad you chose my sister. I want a husband with all his parts." Aemond Targaryen's mouth twisted in rage, and he turned once more to Lord Boris, asking for his leave. The Lord of Storm's End shrugged and answered, "It is not for me to tell you what to do when you are not under my roof." And his knights moved aside as Prince Aemond rushed to the door. Outside, the storm was raging. Thunder roared across the castle. The rain fell in blinding sheets, and from time to time, great bolts of blue-white lightning lit the world as bright as day. It was bad weather for flying, even for a dragon, and Arrax was struggling to stay aloft when Prince Aemond mounted Vhagar and went after him. The sky being calm, Prince Lucerys might have been able to outfly his pursuer, for Arrax was younger and swifter, and so it came to pass that the dragons met above Shipbreaker Bay. Watchers on the castle walls saw distant blasts of flame and heard a shriek cut the thunder. Then 2 beasts were locked together, lightning crackling around them. Vhagar was 5 times the size of her foe, and the hardened survivor of 100 battles. If there was a fight, it could not have lasted long. Arrax fell, broken, to be swallowed by the storm-lashed waters of the bay. His head and neck washed up beneath the cliffs below Storm's End 3 days later, to make feasts for crabs and seagulls. Mushroom claims that Prince Lucerys' corpse was washed up as well, and tells us that Prince Aemoned cut out his eyes and presented them to Lady Marys, but this seems excessive. Some say Vhagar snatched Lucerys off his dragon back and swallowed him whole. It has been claimed as well that the prince survived the fall, swam to safety, but lost all memory of who he was, spending the rest of his days as a simple-minded fisherman. The true tellings give these tales the respect they deserve, which is to say none. Lucerys Velaryon died with his dragon. That is undoubtedly correct. The prince was 13, his body was never found, and with his death, the War of the Ravens and Envoys and marriage pacts came to an end, and the War of Fire and Blood began in earnest.